And I'm here. I'm not back. I'm here. This is the End of the Bench Media. This is the End of the Bench. This is Brian H. Rap B. I'm doing the damn thing. A lot of people say I don't have fun anymore. They talk about you're serious. You're way too serious on your podcast. Maybe you need to lighten it up. I'm going to lighten it up. This is a program. The End of the Bench was started because I wanted to talk sports. My idea of talking sports was a bunch of guys sitting around jawing and jaw jacking and yelling and screaming at each other, having a good old time, much like the barbershop. But what I'm going to do is bring that back. I had the urge to live up to a passion project, which is uplifting my people. We're going to have a good old-fashioned time. Today, I am going to introduce to the world the ultimate debate show. The debate is going to be the Supreme Court. And remember, always hit like, hit share, tell a friend to tap in. If you like sports, if you like debates, if you have had an argument or 2 or 10 or 1,000 about sports, I'm going to reintroduce how to talk sports in these United States of America. How you talk about sports in these United States of America. It's not this foolishness about top 5. It's not this foolishness about top 10, or not even the most ridiculous conversation, Mount Rushmore. Sports have been around more than 100 years. How can you sum it up in 4 or 10 people? You mean to tell me, or even hip hop? I'm gonna be talking about entertainment. I'm gonna be talking about music. I'm gonna be talking about all forms of athletics, all positions on the football, baseball diamond, football field, basketball court, tennis court, and so forth and so on. I'm gonna talk about men. I'm gonna talk about women. I'm gonna talk about beauty. I'm gonna talk about ugly. I'm gonna talk about whack. I'm gonna talk about dope. I'm gonna talk about whatever you want to talk about. But today is the inaugural Supreme Court. What is the Supreme Court? It is the ruler of the land. Every argument in the United States of America, if it gets too deep, it's going to be settled by the Supreme Court. And what better way to settle something by the Supreme Court is the ultimate, the sports debate. And as I say every day, hit like, hit share, tell a friend to tap in if you can. If you want to watch this later, if you want to watch this, if you come in late and you want to watch this in its entirety, go to www.theendofthebench.com, hit like, hit share, and subscribe if you haven't. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, peoples, this is the Supreme Court. Well, welcome you. Hello. Thank you for the support. Now, what's the deal about the Supreme Court? Rap, man, that's Supreme Court might sound like you're going to court and it's other people with shows and things of that nature. No, the Supreme Court is the ultimate debate show in the history of the world. Eventually, we'll elevate to having a guest next to me. He's going to tell me his Supreme Court. I'm going to tell you my Supreme Court. Then we might even have a round table of Supreme Court nominees. But today, it's the best. It's the best that I can do. I am taking the National Football League. I'm not going to use the black and white NFL when there wasn't no black coaches, wasn't too many black players, and then you sprinkle it in. We're going to go from the merger. The merger will happen in the late 60s, and we're not going to use those guys like the late, great Len Dawson and Bob Greasy and those guys because they were at arguably the greatest quarterback in the history of the world, Johnny Unitas. I'm starting at the merger. And these guys in the 70s, he took the passing game to the next level. I am going to bring to you across the bottom of the screen where you see the End of the Bench presents the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court of Entertainment. Right across there will be the statistics of the people that I'm talking about. And then we're going to talk about those players. I'm going to give you who I believe is the best quarterbacks of the mid 70s, early to mid 70s to the early to mid 80s. These are the guys who set the pace for the NFL high-flying passing game. So you can have people like Bullet Bob Hayes. You can have people like Drew Pearson. You got people like Lance Allworth back in the day. But you have people like John Starworth, Lance Swan, and so forth and so on. We are going to talk about these guys who set the pace. First and foremost, let me start with one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the league that most of you guys have never heard of. This is a man by the name of Ken Anderson. Ken Anderson is one of the greatest quarterbacks you've never heard of. He was the quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals. He took the Cincinnati Bengals from ashy to classy, meaning he started in the mid 70s. As you see, he was a Pro Bowler, 75, 76, and 81 when he played in the Super Bowl. He was the passer leader, 74, 75. He won the most prestigious quarterback in the world, award in the world. He was a 4-time passing leader. This guy was Actually, he won the Burt Bell Award in 1981. That's kind of saying the player of the year. But the reason I'm putting him on this list is because Ken put the Bengals in the Super Bowl, not only in the playoffs, and he lost to arguably one of the greatest quarterbacks in the world. You don't know who Ken Anderson is because you are stuck in ESPN. Salute to my main man, Ken Anderson. The next up on the menu is one of the greatest quarterbacks, again, that you don't hear about because they don't talk about history on ESPN anymore. What is this guy name? His name is Dan Fouts. He was the architect, well, he was the executor of Air Coryell. You guys know Air Jordans, you know Air Nikes. This dude was the man when it came to Air Coryell. You had John Jefferson, you had Charlie Joyner, Chuck Muncie, James Brooks, Kevin Winslow Sr. He was the leader of the most prolific passing award. This dude dominated the stats. Before Dan Marino, it was Dan Fouts. I want you to understand these dudes were unstoppable. Unstoppable. And he was the captain of that ship. If you don't know who Dan Fouts is, he is your second justice on the Supreme Court. Nobody could touch him in those early 80s. He is what he preceded Dan Marino. If you love Dan Marino, you should love Dan Fouts and Ed Coryell, Don Coryell. He was a no-brainer Hall of Fame. The next guy on this list, bam! Check this out. Check out the bottom of the screen, and we got my man from my team, the Snake, Ken the Snake Stabler. They said he used to read the playbook in the bar while kicking it with the Renegade Raiders. He was a Pro Bowler in 73, 74, 75, 76, and 77, two-time passer leader. He won that prestigious quarterback award in 1974. You'll see it across the screen in a second. He was a passer leader. He was one of the greatest comeback artists in the history of the world. Again, won that Burt Bell Award in 1976. Just so happened to be the year him and the Oakland Raiders won their very first Super Bowl. Ken the Snake Stabler was the entire man. He was that deal, but they don't talk about him because the National Football League seems to have forgotten their past, and they want to focus on Brady, and they want to focus on these guys and that guy. This is when quarterbacking was a difficult task. The next guy on my list is a guy that a lot of people don't even like because he runs his mouth. Initially, he was out of Notre Dame, and his name was Joe Theismann, but because they wanted him to be a contender for the Heisman Trophy, they changed his name to Joe Theismann. Joe Theismann is a multiple-time Pro Bowler. He also won that Burt Bell Award in 1982, where he also won league MVP. He quarterbacked the Washington Redskins at the time, no disrespect, the Washington Commanders now, but they were the Redskins back then, to 2 Super Bowl appearances, 1 Super Bowl championship, multiple CFL All-Stars. And one of the reasons he was minuscule in stature, and he used to play like, quote unquote, a black quarterback. He ran, he threw. Joe Theismann was the man in the CFL, worked his way to an NFL quarterback, rebuilt the name of the Washington Redskins, now Commanders. Joe Theismann is a Super Bowl champion, and he is on the Supreme Court. Now, this is the next guy on this list. It's the only guy. A lot of people, you're going to have some people that say, what is he there for? Because he don't have the numbers. He does not have the numbers. He does not have the accolades. But do you see the man on the screen? It's the first black man to ever win the Super Bowl. And y'all thinking, man, these guys went to Pro Bowls. They went to multiple Super Bowls, multiple AFC championship games. How is Doug Williams on this list? Doug Williams is not on the list just because he's a black man, the first black man to win the Super Bowl. Doug Williams is the very first black man to be picked in the first round to be the face of a team. That means he came along with all kinds of discriminatory practices, racism, and all the other isms that come along with being a black man in the 70s and the early 80s in these United States of America. He stood tall. He took the Buccaneers to heights that they had never seen. Before he got there, they were the Yuccaneers. You had people like Leroy Selman and Jimmy Giles at the tight end position, but they had a makeshift team, and they were horrible. When Doug showed up, they eventually became division champs in the NFC Central at that time, and it's called the NFC North now. But Doug Williams showed and proved to the entire world he made the Buccaneers viable. And in the early 80s, the USFL came around, the Buccaneers with their ownership, who was horrible at that time, still ownership now, but they not as horrible as they dad. But Doug Williams left and went to USFL and lit it up. And when he came for the Tampa Bay Bandits, and when he came back to the NFL, he rode the bench in the first chance he got. He took the job from then Pro Bowler Jay Schrader. And this was Pro Bowler was made for people who were big-time players. And he showed the world. They picked me first. And because I was the first black man to be picked in the first round and to be the face of a team, I am the first black man to take a team to the pinnacle. Salute to my brother, Doug Williams. Next up is a guy that a lot of people overlook. And see, this is how I know that y'all be talking out the back of y'all behinds, because this guy won 4 Super Bowls. This guy was he was the quarterback for one of the greatest teams in the history of the National Football League. And when y'all talk about that GOAT thing, y'all never talk about Terry Bradshaw, 4-time Super Bowl champion, league MVP, multiple-time Pro Bowler, player of the year. He won the quarterback of the year award as well. He won that quarterback of the year, offensive player of the year award as well. Terry Bradshaw went from being criticized, being called the stupidest guy in the league, saying he couldn't spell cat if you spotted him the C and the T, to being 4-time Super Bowl champion, league MVP, 2-time Super Bowl MVP. Terry Bradshaw was the man. All these guys need to be or in the Hall of Fame. Doug Williams and Ken Anderson are not, but they need to be. Terry Bradshaw needs his flowers. Because if you're going to tell me winning 7 Super Bowl makes you the greatest quarterback in the world, winning 4 should get you in the conversation. Next up, his number one rival at the time, Roger the Dodger Staubach. Roger ran. Roger was the comeback king. He could throw. He spent time in the military. That's why he wasn't immediately in the National Football League. As you see, y'all see, look at his numbers. Touchdown leader, passing leader, multiple-time Pro Bowler, multiple-time passer leader. He was on the 70s team of the decade. He was on the 100th anniversary team. This is why Roger Staubach is on the H route, be the end of the bench Supreme Court. And you see that Burt Bell Award, that is a reoccurring thing. That means you were the all-time man at that time. Roger Staubach career was cut short due to concussions. People, see, this is how you know the National Football League, ESPN, and all these other outlets, they don't care about the past. They want to talk about now. If he was suffering from concussions back then, don't tell me about that. I don't want to hear that. Next up is a guy who is woefully overlooked. He retired number 1 in touchdowns. He retired number 1 in yards. He went to 3 Super Bowls. He lost them. He lost all 3, but it's difficult to get to 3 Super Bowls. This is a guy who played like Randall Cunningham. He played like Steve McNair. He played like Steve Young. He was running. He was throwing. He retired the number one in passing yards in NFL history, number 1 in touchdowns in NFL history. He was the completion leader in 1977, and as I mentioned, 3 Super Bowls. This dude, and y'all see 1975, what he do? Burt Bell Award. This lets you know you don't win that award just being a clown. Fran Tarkenton was the man. We're not gonna sum this up to winning Super Bowls. Winning Super Bowls is a great thing and it's a wonderful situation in regards to a team, but quarterbacking and anchoring a team to a Super Bowl is just as good. It's a team game. It's the ultimate team game. And if he can get his team to not 1, not 2, but 3 separate Super Bowls, played with the Giants, played with the Vikings, he is the man. Salute to Fran Tarkenton. And the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court is no other than Joe Montana. Joe Montana is personally my greatest of all time. If you're going to tell me that Tom Brady is the greatest Super Bowl quarterback in the history of the world, and y'all told me Michael Jordan is the greatest player in the history of the world because he was 6 for 6 in the NBA Finals, and Joe was 4 for 4 in the Super Bowl, and Joe never had a bad NBA Finals, and Joe never had an average Super Bowl game. Joe won 3 Super Bowl MVPs along with the accolades that you see on the bottom of the screen. He won that Burt Bell Award too. He won multiple league MVPs, but here's the beauty in Joe Montana. Since Jordan was 6 for 6 in the NBA Finals, and never lost, and Joe never lost against stiffer competition and more physical play. This is what I want to understand. How is it that Brady have had mediocre and to poor Super Bowl games than Joe, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, and the 4th one, Jerry Rice won. Jerry Rice can't win the Super Bowl MVP unless Joe is having a good game. So Joe Montana is it's the Chief Justice of the very first Supreme Court. If you wanna, and look, like, comment, tell a friend, start this fight, man. Share this, comment, leave me comments on this. I will interact with you all night long, like Lionel Richie. Look, if you want to know if Joe, look, some people will overlap into other Supreme Courts. That's why it's the Supreme Court. You're going to give people their flowers, and then they will transition. Joe will be on A. Newsflash, Joe going to be on the next one because he played into the 80s and the 90s. Joe won 2 Super Bowls. By the time the end of this list starts, he wins 2 more in the future. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about basketball. We're going to talk about baseball. Leave a comment in the comment section saying, well, talk about this. I need a Supreme Court of boxing. We need a Supreme Court of baseball. We need a Supreme Court of running backs. We need a Supreme Court of teams. We're going to have, this is real sports talk. This ain't other people on TV yelling out platitudes and repeating and regurgitating foolish, nonsensical facts. I am HYB. That was Joe Montana. That was Joe Montana. This is the Supreme This is the Supreme Court podcast talking about sports better than anybody ever done it. 2 fingers, 1 word. Leave a comment. I'm chopping this up. Talk to me, man. Holla at your boy.